Welcome to Big Basket Now presents the RCB Podcast.
It was in 2008. IPL's media rights for 10 years were valued at 8,200 crores. In 2022, it took 23,758,000 crores for Viacom 18 to finally land the digital rights for 5 years. With that deal, Viacom 18 launched a revolution in sports broadcasting in India. To shed more light on this huge commercial market, I have with me Mr. Anil Jayaraj, CEO, Sports 18. Welcome to the RCB Podcast, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
For people who aren't fully aware, and particularly the international market, give us a brief overview of Viacom 18.
Viacom 18 is a joint venture between TV18, which is a Reliance owned company, Bodhi Tree, which is again two media giants, James Murdoch and Uday Shankar, and Paramount Global. It is today one of the largest TV and digital streaming networks. Got various channels like Colors, and the OTT app is JioCinema. Viacom 18 entered sports 2 years ago, and since then has very quickly become the number one broadcaster stroke streamer. We've done various global scale events including IPL, WPL, FIFA World Cup. Recently we won the BCCI rights. We have other events like NBA, ISL, and of course the upcoming Olympics. And we are today the largest OTT player in the country.
Fantastic. 23,000 odd crores for 5 years. If I may begin by asking why and how, what was the vision?
Nobody goes in by saying that I'm going to spend 23,000 crores. That's not the way it works. And this wasn't a blind auction, as in people were simultaneously bidding. Our competitors were also bidding. So it's not a number that sort of was put in a blind bid. So when we looked at it fundamentally, it was based upon the business case. 2 or 3 key drivers. One is that digital was going to be very, very, very large. And that was something that we bet big time on. And that's why for the first time, TV and digital values were so high. So that was point one. Second is, as we saw the market evolving for advertising and subscription revenues, we had our plans very clear, saying that we will go only ahead of the paywall, so we won't be charging consumers for subscription. So it's on those basis that we developed various models to say what would the ideal number be. But there's an auction. RCB does a lot of player auctions, so that you go in with a strategy. But at some point in time, you then take a call saying that, look, what do I prioritize? We are extremely bullish about cricket. We are extremely bullish about IPL, and we are extremely bullish about the digital economy. So that was why we did it.
That was the thinking behind it.
बस यही बोलना है, यही तुम्हारा ऐड?
Yeah, that's it.
सही है यार. Now delivering in 10 minutes.
What would you credit for this kind of valuation, twin rights of close to about 50,000 crores? Who would you credit this kind of IPL packaging that has happened and what it is currently?
So I think it has to be the whole ecosystem, starting with BCCI, who sort of put together the IPL and have sort of sustained it for so many years, brought in new innovations, and kept it at the front edge of what we would call a high value sporting action. But at the same time, it is entertaining too. All the franchisees, including the lovely work that franchisees like yourself, MI, have done, CSK of course, with their track record of winning for so many of the IPL tournaments. And more importantly, the fans. I think I would credit a lot of value to the fans, because as they have come in and watched in large numbers, that's helped improve the business fundamentals for broadcasters and streamers. And lastly, but not the least, some credit to the broadcasters and streamers. Historically, whether it was Sony, Star, or now us, I think we're trying to do our job.
Right, and giving access to people to watch the entire action for free. I think truly a masterstroke in so many ways, because it certainly brought about a revolution in the way people watch, and I think it was widely acknowledged as well.
The maths of it is that the advertising pie in India is much larger than the subscription sort of market, and that's why it was important for us to maximize that value. What had happened in the previous editions of IPL is that because of this tussle between subscription and AVOD, you ended up throttling the number of people who could come in. We opened it and we had 449 million people coming and watching a single edition of IPL, and that was quite game changing, and that helped us monetize, and it's keeping us on track for our business targets.
Right, and you did mention the vision when the deal was signed as well. And now that we are well on our way, how are you soaking it all in? And what do you think in terms of, are there pivots that happen along the way, or is it a long-term strategy and you stick to it?
The long-term vision is quite clear. Strategy, can change, but not too often, hopefully.
Right.
The tactics from year to year change. And that's the way we look at it. Tactics are very, very changeable. Strategy is a bit more stable. Vision is good, solid.
Right. We do see consumers taking in content and the mannerisms, the behavior, and overall things change from year to year. This year, we saw a lot of regional content kick in. Bhojpuri commentary was a huge hit as well. Talk to us about how Tier 2 and Tier 3 markets are soaking in, and how much of an impact is broadcast having on these markets?
So the advantage of digital is that you can do many feeds. So I can customize feeds for very specific geographies. Unlike linear television, which gets restricted to 5 or 6 channels that you could put it on, here we could do 17 feeds. And that was quite game-changing. As you pointed out, Bhojpuri, the other big hit was Punjabi. So it helped us experiment with a large number of languages. And our learning on this has been quite simple, saying that, look, if you provide access in an affordable way, by access I mean if you're providing it in the language of their consumption, then there is a real chance that they will watch a lot more content than what they would if they were not deeply immersed. And language does that, and that's what our learning was. Some languages certainly, like Bhojpuri and Punjabi in particular, sort of blew our minds in terms of what happened.
We do see a lot of innovations happening as well. In fact, it almost feels like a viewer is with the action that's happening. Talk to us about some of the innovations that are happening around the world of live broadcast of sports.
There are a number of things that have happened, but the big one, and I say this because I start with this because this is not something that we did, but if you look at what's happened with the telecom availability, with what Jio has done, etc., is basically you don't need to miss a single minute of the action. If you think about it, a few years ago, if you had to step out of home, you could not access what was happening in the match. So you had to either phone somebody or watch.
Appointment viewing that used to happen.
So now you can, anywhere, anytime, you can actually consume the game. So that is one. What we have focused on more is around how do you make it engaging for the viewer. For instance, one of the things that we did is put together a high quality broadcast with 4K. 4K is not available through conventional television, so it's only available through connected TVs. And that's one big innovation, because 4K broadcast hadn't happened. So we were the first to do that. The other parts around interactivity, as a consumer, if I want to choose a particular camera angle, we actually provided that option where consumers could go and say, okay, I don't want to see this from front on, I want to see this from side on. And I don't want to wait for the broadcaster to necessarily cue that. So it gave a lot of power in the hands of the consumer. So you could do camera angles, you could choose live games, you could choose the stats that matter to you. Because otherwise, there is a standard set of stats. If you are particularly interested in a particular type of stat, you could actually choose that, and that was available to you. So interactivity, personalization are the key things that we focused on. Our focus on technology was also to deliver consumer value. That's what we did.
बस यही बोलना है, यही तुम्हारा ऐड?
Yeah, that's it.
सही है यार. Now delivering in 10 minutes.
Change always brings with it a certain amount of resistance. And would you say that India is ready and has embraced innovations when it comes to broadcast?
I think reality is that linear TV broadcast hasn't innovated in the last 15 years. The last innovation 15 years ago was possibly the high definition, and after that, nothing has happened. Whereas, if you see what's happening, connected TVs this year will possibly be more than the pay TV universe. And that's a big, big shift that is happening, right? I mean, driven by fibers, driven by all the fire sticks, or various things that have actually ensured that people are now connected with their television. I read somewhere that 95% of all televisions sold last quarter were connected TV. So connected TV is going to make a massive difference. So that's change in technology. Also, there's a whole set of people who've come into viewing in the last 15, 20 years who have been mobile first. So they've never really bothered about the television broadcast. So these are all changes that are happening on account of the demographics also. But we are in the midst of that time where you need to work for every set of consumer. Just because somebody is older and doesn't view it the same way as a small screen, you can't disregard that consumer. So that is the challenge, and that's what we are trying to ensure.
Right, which brings me to what's Viacom's view on Gen Z, Y, Z.
So Gen Z actually is part of the question that, part of the point that I was making earlier. So Gen Y are possibly cord cutters who said, okay, look, I get everything on OTT. I don't need to have my pay the satellite dishes, etc. So I can cut it and I can still continue to enjoy it. Gen Zs are actually cord nevers. They've never really had a linear television. They've either had connected televisions or mobiles, and mobiles have been the first for them. So they're all mobile first, and that's why it's a very different approach that you need to take. The other big thing that we are seeing on Gen Zs is they consume a lot more of sport compared to a Gen X or a Gen Y, where the number of sport consumed is lower. So here you see a lot of interest in football, basketball, esports, in addition to cricket. Cricket still is huge, but these are people who are also consuming other sport.
Right. Anil, how do you think broadcast is going to change 5 years down the line? Will we see a massive shift, or you think this is going to take some more time and we are at the future already?
So I think 5 years is a good time to look at, because that's where, a typical rights cycles are 5 years, so you don't need to think beyond that. But I think there are a few things that will happen. This is my guess. Anybody, people may agree or not, but I think 2 or 3 things. One is that I think pay TV as we know it will actually almost fully finish in 5 years because of the rate of growth of connected TVs. Connected TVs this year, by the end of 24, will be larger than the pay TV number. So that's one big change. The second is, I bet that a lot of broadcasters, streamers, etc. will undertake mass customization. So we did 17 feeds, and that itself was huge record and stuff like that. But I can see that grow exponentially. And because of digital, you can actually make that many streams available. Unlike, you don't need to have a television channel, you can actually do this. That I think is going to be great, because that will improve engagement, watch time. The third big thing is use of technology in production. We're seeing what AI can do. We see what machine learning can do. So based upon a few things of that nature, I think the production workflows will certainly change dramatically. The way talent interacts with viewers will change. Those are 3 things that I think will be dramatically different.
बस यही बोलना है? यही तुम्हारा ऐड?
Yeah, that's it.
सही है यार. Now delivering in 10 minutes.
What are your hopes for women's sport in India, and how promising do the numbers look? For example, WPL.
So WPL was a huge watershed moment, to be honest. While we were all very confident that it'll do great, we saw the interest from existing IPL franchises, including RCB, MI, DC, etc., buying teams. But the interesting thing was, once the matches started, hugely competitive games, great amount of spectator interest. If you were walking along trying to get into the stadium, you would not know that it's a WPL game or an IPL game. It was people painting their faces and stuff like that. It looked huge. Also, it's given rise to quite a few different brands who now can target different demographies on the basis of WPL. So all in all, it's been very, very positive, and we are hopeful that this will grow from strength to strength.
Right. In other countries, we see a Super Bowl happen. There is sports fanatism to another level, but India is another animal on its own. What do you think when you compare sports broadcasting across the world, the standards that India has, and how hopeful or optimistic are you about the future?
One of the things I'll say is that you should not underestimate the scale in India. While Super Bowl gets talked about, I think it's still sub 100 million people who watch one game, which is the Super Bowl. The concurrency numbers that we hit, which were world records or which have been subsequently broken, are massive by any standards, and concurrency is at that point in time. If you see the views, which is a more relevant metric, I think we are already there. The technology that we need in order to serve this is actually, you can't test it anywhere else because this scale of events is not available anywhere else. I think the big difference which I find is that India still happens to be predominantly a single sport country. So other sports are still growing. It's not at the same scale as cricket is. Whereas if you compare it with any other country, they'll have multiple sports which are there. But cricket and IPL in particular are right there. I mean, very few tournaments in the world, or very few events in the world across TV and digital will get, IPL, for instance, I think got some 600 million people, 450 million on digital, and some more on TV. So 600 million, etc., you will not get anywhere. And this year will be much bigger. So, yeah, we are already there in scale.
Yeah, well, the numbers just keep on increasing, and every year you think this is a milestone, but it keeps getting stretched further and further. What's your opinion about the numbers?
Indian viewers always surprise us, and in a positive way, and that's why we have to be ready with at least 2x of what we had last year, and that is massive. Nowhere in any field does viewership grow 2x, and that's what we are going to be prepared for.
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much for spending time with us. RCB Innovation Lab, Leaders India Meet. What do you think of the stage, the setup, the networking, and the overall event?
I think it's been fantastic so far, and I'm hoping that I have some time to catch up with a few friends who I saw in the crowd. Overall, this is really, really good.
Well, we really appreciate the fact that you took some time to have this conversation with us. Mr. Anil Jayaraj, thank you so very much. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you.
Big Basket Now presents the RCB Podcast.